Good morning, good morning, good morning. Listen, I am so excited to be alive. And I pray that you are too. A lot of times we just move through life and we don't take time to say thank you to God, to the fact that we don't have to be here. And so I like to spend my morning in prayer and meditation and listening to the word, whether that's through song or through word, but just to start my day. So I encourage you to do that. Today, my question to you is: would you marry you? Like, how much do you know about you? Are you a person that others would want to be in a relationship with? Do you exhibit all the things you say you want in your spouse or in a partner? And I get it, like, we're not perfect. None of us move in perfection at all times. But I'm just curious to know, when you look deep within, would you marry you? Because I there are times when I feel really sad for my husband that he's married to me. Not because I think of myself as the worst person in the world, but I absolutely know that, like, I have these flaws and these, like, little weird things about myself. I'm very moody, particularly this season in my life, that whole perimenopause and menopause. I have entered fully into menopause. But, the hot flashes, the brain fog, all of that, like, would I want to be married to me? And there are times I think no. But I want you to really think about this question, because how are you showing up in the world? How are you showing up for your spouse? What we tend to do in marriage, and particularly in the early stages of marriage, and I say the early stages, regardless of how long you've been married, if you haven't really allowed God to take you into the real journey of marriage, meaning the commitment of, okay, God, I surrender. I'm here to heal. I'm not here to get what I want. I'm not here to fight for this happiness. I'm not here to have my way. If you haven't entered into that place, you're still new in marriage, because marriage is really about your personal development, your growth, the shedding of who, maybe all the stuff that's been on you for years, and God is trying to make you the new wife, the new husband, the better person. And you keep holding on. You've decided that you think that this is what it should be. Like, you came into this situation with this beautiful idea of what marriage would be like and what your home would be like, what your spouse would be like. And then when anything is out of alignment from that, you think there's something wrong with them because you never look within. So when I ask the question, when you marry you, I want to know, who would you be married to? Like, who is the person that is showing up in the marriage? Who's your spouse experiencing? Are they experiencing a person who's really loving and compassionate? Or are they experiencing the person who's loving and compassionate when things are going your way? Do they know that you hold a safe space for them? Like, are you doing that? Can they come to you with anything and really be heard? Not attacked for what they hear. I mean, not attacked for what they say. Because sometimes we'll say things like, I want my spouse to open up. I want them to talk to me more. But then the moment they do, we interrupt them. So, one of the things I truly struggle with, and I watch people, like, I notice people in conversations, um, is this notion of the interruption, like the way we communicate, just even in casual settings with friends, with our children, is people will begin to talk and open up, and then I notice other people interrupt them. So if you are the person, if you're an interrupter, know that that's not a safe environment for a person to open up. Because, one of my books, when I was getting my master's degree, the writer talks about being a listener. And he says, when we go in as a person is telling a story, and we begin to then tell our story that's similar to their story, because we think we're relating, what we're doing is we're kidnapping their moment. We're kidnapping their story. So, are you a safe person to be married to be in a relationship with? Like, do you know how to hold space and sit quietly and allow a person to finish completely their thoughts? And then, after hearing what you have to say, particularly if it's about them or about their behavior, then do you allow space for them to rebuttal or to share their thoughts and feelings about that experience without defending yourself. Would you marry you? Would you be safe knowing that I can hear the hard thing about me without taking it personal for the sake of growing? Right? Are you that person? Because a lot of times we love to analyze other people's lives, right? We love to say what they're doing wrong. If I was you, what I would do. But how often are we analyzing ourselves? Who are we showing up as? Are we looking at what we're doing, what we're bringing, how we're communicating? If we're moving in kindness, or are we just stumping around like a little kid trying to get our way? I just encourage you to take a day and just pay attention to you. When your mind drifts and you begin to judge other people, I want you to come back into that mindset and think, wow, if I'm judging them, what energy am I letting off? What are they feeling from me? Are they safe in my presence? Do they feel unsafe because they can feel the energy of judgment? And one thing I will share, when I first got married, all I could see was Andre's flaws, everything he did wrong. And I was determined, I had convinced myself that if he just listened to me, because I'm the Holy Grail, um, that our marriage would be better. But then God began to deal with me. And he began to ask me, what about you, Kenesha? And what he was showing me was the reason I was so focused on Andre, the reason I was giving all my energy and attention to try to fix or change my husband was because deep down inside, I wasn't happy. I wasn't living my dreams. I didn't even know what they were. I didn't have goals. I had a job that I truly enjoyed, but I didn't know what the next step was, how to go to the next better place. And so there was no peace within me. And because I didn't have inner peace, I didn't know how to create outer peace. In fact, all I knew how to do was reflect what was inside of me, which was chaotic and crazy and unsettlement. And so people was experiencing that part of me because there was no peace inside. So when I ask, will you marry you? I'm not asking you to just look at your flaws. I'm asking you also to look at your hopes and your dreams and to get really honest about, are you doing those things to fulfill that void in you, or are you only expecting your spouse to fill those voids? Because I promise you that is not his job. That is not her job. Only God can fill the deeper voids in our life. And he does that when we show up fully and we begin to move into action of being and doing and serving from who he's called us to be. And you can do that as a wife, and you can do that as a husband. And particularly wives, I want to say this. Be very careful of making your entire life about your husband, your children, and your marriage. Now, some people have a problem with me saying this, but if they're honest, they will understand what I'm saying. Women oftentimes, and not everyone, when they get married, they will make their entire life about this new ideal of this marriage and this family and this life and this house that I have to build and have to do these things because now I'm a wife. And we put aside everything that we are, the woman, the sister, the brother, the friend that we were before we got married. And I'm not saying like there has to be priority. The marriage should be God, then the marriage and family. But I'm saying you just can't fully lose you. Don't lose complete identity of who you are, the things you like, the things you enjoy. Always find time to carve out that part of you. So one of the most dangerous things I hear is when you ask a woman what brings her joy, and she says, my husband, my children, my family. Because then what happens to you when the children grow up and leave the house? Or, God forbid, if the spouse is no longer with you. I'm just saying, will you marry you? Because if you don't go in there and do that work and get to know who you are and your needs and your desires and the things that bring you joy outside of everyone else, the joy that you get, the peace from being before God, just sitting out in a park. What brings you joy? Because if you don't know that, the you that's showing up in this marriage or in that relationship can be devastating and hard to be around and hellacious, to be honest, because when we don't fulfill the holes and the voids inside, people are experiencing that people are having with us is from a place of hurt and pain and disappointment. And so we're putting all of that out. So I encourage you to get into the work of getting to know you, get into the work of observing you. Who am I? How am I around people? How am I showing up in the world? And then get into the work of allowing God to restore, refresh, rip away the stuff that isn't working so you can become the fulfilling, happy, loving, joyous person that you need to be to have the kind of marriage or relationship that you truly desire. I believe you can do it. And I believe it can be a wonderful pleasure to be married to you when you start doing the work. Have an amazing day. Do me a favor when you like, share, and subscribe to these videos. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.